Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 23 has now officially been revealed, having to be translated by Ken Zyro, Herms98 on Twitter, alongside Devil's Corpse and many others. The links to these manga chapters will be located down below as we kick off Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 23, exactly where manga chapter number 22 left off, with the debut of MERGED Zamasu having to be introduced in this manga chapter. Now, there are key differences in the manga in comparison to the anime. Of course, with these changes and alterations, some people may agree with the situation, some people may disagree, but nevertheless, we kick off the manga chapter exactly where we left off, with MERGED Zamasu having to stand there over Goku and Vegeta in praising his perfect body. Now, right off the bat, we already know that Goku and Vegeta are in their Super Saiyan God forms. In an attempt to stop Zamasu, we see how Goku and Vegeta try to be on the offensive, but MERGED Zamasu in this manga chapter proves how superior he is to both Super Saiyan God Goku and Super Saiyan God Vegeta, as he disposes of them with complete and utter ease. And going forward in this manga chapter, I do want to talk about Zamasu's speed, because there was one scan in particular where we see Goku and Vegeta standing there as MERGED Zamasu manages to not only outpace them, but MERGED Zamasu was so fast in one of these scans that Goku and Vegeta could not register as to what Zamasu had done, as we quickly pan over to another scan where we see Goku and Vegeta both drop down to the ground due to Zamasu's attacks. So if you want to ask me, this was very comparable to Omega Shenron versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, as Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in the anime was so fast that Omega Shenron wasn't able to register as to what had happened. So if you compare that to the anime and to the manga in Dragon Ball Super, we see that MERGED Zamasu was so quick on his feet that he was able to knock down Super Saiyan God Goku and Super Saiyan God Vegeta out of their forms due to his immense speed, and having to praise how he is the only necessary God who should exist, in which we see Vegeta go from base form into Super Saiyan Blue as Vegeta begins to charge Zamasu, but again to no avail, because we see how quickly Zamasu disposes of Vegeta by giving him a few shots behind his neck, in which Vegeta drops on down to the floor, and we see how he powers back down to base form. So MERGED Zamasu also manages to knock Vegeta out of his Super Saiyan Blue form, similar to how he knocked him out of the God form. And then we see how Goku takes initiative, and we see how Goku from then on forward begins to charge at Zamasu, in which Zamasu sticks his hand out, but Goku quickly counters as he gets pushed back into trying to fight off Zamasu, in which doesn't work. We see how Goku tries to go for some hammer shots. We see how Goku is on the offensive. He's trying to connect with Zamasu, but to little to no avail, because Goku is unable to do anything as Zamasu grabs Goku and quickly flips him around. And what's cool about this scan is as soon as Zamasu begins to approach Son Goku with his back being turned towards Zamasu, we see how Goku secretly has his hands together as he prepares to unleash a Kamehameha, in which Zamasu does not pick up on this idea until Goku fully turns around and unleashes a devastating Kamehameha right in front of Zamasu's face, in which Zamasu has a massive hole blown through his chest, as he didn't even know what had happened until the Kamehameha had went through. And later on, we see how in the manga it was confirmed that Zamasu is eternal. He is immortal. He's not half immortal as it was said in the anime. In the manga, he's fully immortal. He's fully able to regenerate his body, in which shortly after, that's exactly what he does, because the giant bagel-sized blast that was in his chest has fully regenerated, very similar to how we've seen before with Majin Buu. And at first, we see how Kaioshin and Trunks were kind of puzzled that finally Goku had managed to have some sort of an effect on him until he fully regenerated. From then on forward, we see how Zamasu grabs Goku and grabs Vegeta using some sort of like a telekinesis-like power and lifting them up off the ground, which we've never seen in the anime done before. And he's slowly squeezing the life out of Goku and Vegeta, so much so to where Goku powers down from a Super Saiyan Blue back down to his base form. That's how strong of a grip he has on both Goku and Vegeta's neck. And during this whole process, he tells them not to choke, and we see how he just completely blows them back, in which creates a massive crater. And we see how everyone ducks for cover as MERGED Zamasu unleashes this massive blast, in which causes Goku and Vegeta to be sent flying backwards, as later on Zamasu begins to laugh at the idea that he is the perfect God, that he is the perfect being, and that he should be revered and praised and loved for being who he is, that now he is the ultimate God. And in which later on we see how Goku and Vegeta are down on the ground, and Zamasu sticks his hands out, and very similar to, I would say, Super Buu's human extinction attack, MERGED Zamasu lifts up his hands and he begins to unleash massive amounts of ki blast all throughout the land, and Vegeta having to say, Kakarot, we have to do something about this, in which they do, because we see later on how Zamasu's aiming right for them. He begins to aim all over the place. place, and we see how the blasts are raining down on Vegeta and Goku, and they also notice how the blasts are getting ever so closer to Shin and to Gowasu, in which Goku teleports right in front of the blast, and he tells them to duck for cover as Goku takes the blast head on. And now this is what doesn't make any sense to me. Now Goku seems to take all these blasts head on, but then after the blast, we see how he was kind of okay, he wasn't badly injured, but later on he sees how Supreme Kai offers the earrings. He takes the earrings because the fusion method was instantly brought up by Shin as he suggested for Goku and Vegeta to fuse, and obviously very similar to the anime, we see how Vegeta refuses to fuse with Goku during the time being, as Vegeta does not want to do that with Goku, but instead charges right back at Merged Zamasu, which was a bad idea because for the moment being, we see how they're bickering and they're fighting and they're arguing, but eventually we see how they come to terms and they finally fly up in the air and they use the earrings as Merged Zamasu is trying to oppose, you know, Goku and Vegeta. But even with that being said, the whole like narrative during that scene was Vegeta did not want to go on ahead and team with Goku and merging their body, in which we see Goku later on trying to once again attack Zamasu, in which failed miserably because even while Vegeta said no, Goku is at least attempting to stop Zamasu, in which he fails. Now, and then we see Zamasu unleash these giant cube-like attacks. Now, these cubes reminded me of Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if you guys remember when the original Z sword was broken based on the metal that Shin had created, that being the strongest metal in the universe. So maybe I'm mistaken, but we finally get to see that be included in the manga, which we haven't seen since Dragon Ball Z, which I thought was pretty cool. But Merged Zamasu was able to replicate and create lots of cubes in which not only connected with Goku but damaged him heavily. So he throws these cubes at Goku, Goku goes down, and again, none of this was ever shown in the actual anime, which I found to be pretty cool in the manga at least. But then Goku gets sent flying right inside of a building in which he is very damaged, and Merged Zamasu promises to end Son Goku's life, as right then and there we see how Vegeta, by taking lots of, you know, talk by Gowasu and Trunks and having to convince him, flies into the building. And this was the only difference between the anime and the manga in terms of them fusing. Now, when they actually fused together, Merged Zamasu promised the death of the entire world, the death of the entire universe, and just as Merged Zamasu was about to launch this massive blast, out of nowhere, this massive energy wave gets sent flying towards Zamasu's direction, in which rips his entire arm out. So this blast, mind you, was so huge that we see it go flying past the earth. It was massive in size. We see how Shin, Gowasu, Mai, Trunks, everyone's in shock as this blast completely swallows Zamasu, and very similar to Perfect Cell in Dragon Ball Z, half of his body has been destroyed, in which he does manage to regenerate, but then out of the smoke, out of the dust, out of the building, we see the legendary Vegito standing there, and he introduces himself as Vegito, as Vegito. There is no Super Saiyan Blue as of right now, of course, but a lot of us were wondering if Vegito becomes a Super Saiyan God. That is not the case because Vegito introduces himself, but he also says something very interesting in the manga as well. He says, and I quote, "Just like you, we fused as well, and just like you, we have an hour." So this might be a mistranslation. We don't know what they mean by that, but the retcon is added into the manga. So in case some of you guys are wondering, Vegito does in fact have 1 hour in the manga, similar to the anime. But then even there, we see how Zamasu begins to talk down to the Ningen, and then before they even spar, we see how Gowasu even talks to Shin about the Saiyans having to have 1 hour before they defuse, and in which Vegito, right from the start, before even attempting to engage Zamasu, becomes a Super Saiyan Blue. And this is where things begin to pick up heavily because Vegito in the manga is so strong. I would have to say way more powerful than what we saw in the anime. Just by one little push, just by one little force push, he sent Zamasu flying through buildings, and then we see Vegito on the offensive, and Toriotaro, in my opinion, did such a great job with this. We see how Zamasu, as strong as he is struggling against Vegito, as Vegito sends Zamasu flying underneath the city, even to the point where Zamasu is underneath the city and Vegito sends an energy blast within the ground, blowing up the entire city. I mean, we see this massive crater, you know, be there as Zamasu grabs Vegito by the feet, which I thought was pretty cool because despite what Vegito does, Zamasu keeps coming back. So because of his immortality, so we see how his hands like just pop out underneath the ground on some Freddy Krueger type shit. Now at first, Zamasu was assumed to be defeated by Gowasu and Shin until we see him reappear. He grabs Vegito's feet, in which I thought was pretty cool, and then right then and there we see how Vegito unleashes his energy sword. Now this is the difference. So as soon as Zamasu grabs Vegito's feet, Vegito cuts his arms off. That was really intense. That was very gory because in the anime, we never saw Zamasu be, you know, just dismembered like that. In the manga, of course, he was dismembered as we see Vegito cut him into pieces. He cut his hands off for grabbing him, and we see how he kicks him up in the sky. Zamasu is very damaged, and Zamasu had come to the realization that even with his immortality, Vegito is still superior than Zamasu. So with that, we see how Zamasu begins to get very desperate in trying to unleash a massive attack, that being, you know, the massive cubes that we saw earlier. And right then and there, as much as this sucks, we see how Vegito powers up and he cocks back for the final Kamehameha. Now keep in mind, Vegito is so powerful, he promises to end this, in which Zamasu also promises to destroy Vegito as he spawns dozens and dozens of these cubes. Now these cubes have to be powerful in essence, they have to weigh a ton, but we see how he cocks back for the final Kamehameha, and then right there we see how right as the standoff begins between Zamasu and Vegito, Vegito just in the nick of time, right as he fires the final Kamehameha, the very second he fires the blast, they defuse. They defuse upon the very second that they manage to actually unleash the blast, which again, it sucks because in this manga chapter, we did not get a chance to see the overall final Kamehameha be used, but instead, we see how they fire off just in the nick of time, and the second they fire the blast off, they defuse and they separate. So the manga chapter cuts off right there, in which I do believe the finale is going to be Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 24, in which we don't know if the Omni King is going to fully stop Zamasu or if it's going to be Trunks. But post your comments down below, guys. What are your overall thoughts on Vegito? What are your overall thoughts on him having to be so strong that he separated, even to the point where, as translated by several sources, it was stated by the Supreme Kai that perhaps Vegito is so strong because of his defusion so quickly, perhaps Vegito is so strong that he is stronger even than Beerus. So that has sparked a lot of controversy, especially in my Discord chat. So if you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys, for more content. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like down below, tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down in the comment section below. Take it easy, guys. Peace.